Hello and welcome to another edition of It's About Money. I'm Nannette Nocon and thank you for joining us. I'm excited about this show coming up, and it's because I'm talking to Debora McDell-Hernandez, who is the queen of reinvention. And many of us go through times where we want to reinvent ourselves and find the new me or the new you. And so I am thrilled that we have someone who is excellent, the queen of reinvention. Debora, thank you for joining us
Thank you.
today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me, how did you get that acknowledgement? I mean, I think that's wonderful. So tell me how friends started referring to you as the queen of reinvention.
Well, actually, the first person to call me that was a colleague at my former employer, Memorial Art Gallery. And she said that because of my, not so much just my career changes, but just my fascination with variety being my spice of life. And, whether it was taking on new hobbies, taking a class, or doing something else. And I call myself a cheerleader for lifelong learning. And I think I actually put that to practice. And although I was at the Memorial Art Gallery for quite a long time, 17 years, which might seem unusual to folks these days, but in those 17 years, I had four unique job titles. So same place, but four jobs. And prior to that, I was in retail services or financial services at Chase Manhattan Bank for 9 years. And again, 9 years, but three unique job positions during that time. So I'm not afraid of change. I'm one who welcomes change. I like to continue learning and continuing to develop. It keeps me from becoming stagnant.
So how did you develop that mindset? Because so many people, and I feel badly for them, who feel like they're stuck in their circumstances, and once in a while that may be the case. But I think a lot of it is what's inside, right? What's happening inside that projects out to the outside. What is your secret with regards to having that mindset of reinvention?
Well, I think some of it is simply about courage. Um, you have to be brave enough to venture out into the unknown. And anytime someone changes jobs, be it, from one industry to something completely different, there's a certain amount of courage required because you don't really know what you're getting into. And I also can say in my instance, because I was single, didn't have children, I could take more risk. So when I made the move from Chase Manhattan Bank from for profit to a nonprofit, there was some loss in salary because I transitioned from the for profit world to the nonprofit, but it seemed to warrant the change, and I was fortunate to be able to make those types of decisions because I didn't have a bunch of people depending on me. So if I had small children, I may have been a little more hesitant to make a move like that. So I've been fortunate to have that flexibility to do those types of things. But some people still, even if they didn't have a bunch of dependents, would still be afraid to make the move. And I had reached a point at Chase where, we'd had a couple of mergers. I had one department was eliminated. I was in another department that I wasn't really thrilled about. And I'd always had a connection to the Memorial Art Gallery as a volunteer for many, many years, serving on different committees. And I'd even been a volunteer there as a teenager in Art Speak. So it wasn't so foreign to me. I knew everyone there and I loved art. So making that move, the biggest change in making the move was the change in salary. But I felt like it was worth it because of the joy that came with the job.
That's great. Well, a lot of people, I think, are afraid of fear, but really it's just a matter of, I think, just looking towards the future and seeing what the possibilities are, which you obviously have done.
Exactly. And I will say one of the other benefits in moving to the museum, which was part of the University of Rochester, I was able to get my master's degree free of charge.
Oh,
That was an employee benefit. I went to the Margaret Warner School of Human Development and Education. So I received a master's 100% free. And if you calculate that in dollars, it far exceeds the dip I took in pay.
yes, that's right. And I believe it's tax-free, so that's wonderful.
Yes.
That is great. So, and you've made a change not so long ago. And
Yes.
what prompted the change? What made you think of reinventing yourself? Because really, it's going from the arts world to more human services. What made you decide to make that leap?
Well, it felt like change was in the air. You might also say that of 2020 and 2021. But
Yes.
when I made the transition, it was 2018 of March. So that was a year into having, a new president. Donald Trump had been elected. Well, not a year. He was elected in 2016, but there was a lot of change in the air in relation to women's rights, reproductive health rights, immigration rights, all sorts of rights, it seemed, were up for grabs or threatened in some way. And after being at the Memorial Art Gallery for 17 years, and again, having done four very different positions, I felt like it was time to leave the building. I would, I had pretty much run out of other, areas to explore, other ways to develop myself. So I felt like having worked in development or advancement, as some people refer to it, as well as education or academic programs and marketing and engagement, I felt like I had covered a lot of territory in the building, but it was time for me to continue in my quest of lifelong learning and professional development elsewhere. And Planned Parenthood felt like the right place, given my other title, which is cheerleader for not just lifelong learning, but also social justice. So there's a lot of social justice advocacy, education, in addition to healthcare services that happens there.
So, now, are you from Rochester?
Yes, I'm a Rochester native. I went through Rochester City Schools K through 12, and I attended St. John Fisher College as an undergraduate, and then later went to University of Rochester for graduate studies.
That's great. A lot of opportunities, even a lot of criticism for the Rochester City Schools, but certainly you've done well. I know you went to school with my brother and
That's
graduated at the
right,
same
Wilson
time. So,
Magnet High School.
yay. I know he really enjoyed his time there and learned a lot. So it's great. So it sounds to me like you've taken advantage of all the opportunities rather than in the area, especially when you talk about pursuing your master's degree at the U of R while doing your work at the MAG. I mean, that's amazing. Many people see the cup, if you will, half empty, but you, on the other hand, see things, the cup half full, which is wonderful.
Yes, ever the optimist.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And I love the way you promote a lot of arts, let's see, artists in the area. I think I see that you're a fan of Nancy Gong and also Mansa Ware and Andrea Gear. And
Yes.
so it's great that you can collaborate with local artists and really give acknowledgement of what they do through how you present yourself in a very fun way in social media.
Thank you. No, I enjoy supporting them. And even at Planned Parenthood, I mean, I've worked with several artists, even though I'm not working in an art environment. I've had Rachel McGibbons participate in programs doing her poetry. I've collaborated with Rena Golden, with Rachel de Guzman. So although I'm no longer working in the arts industry, there is always a way to weave art into a program, even if it is health, education, advocacy. So,
That's great. So you really make it fun. And
mhm.
and is that one of the ways that you make reinventing yourself a lot more joyful and easy to do?
I think so, because I think one of the handicaps that some of us have is putting things into silos, and everything doesn't necessarily need to be in a silo. There are so many ways to connect or bridge different things, different ideas or areas of study, disciplines. That's the word I want to say. So I think we have to do a better job of thinking outside of the box to find those connections. They might not be as obvious as we hope them to be. Sometimes we have to do a little extra homework to make that connection.
So what makes you stay in Rochester? I mean, I love this community, but I want to hear it from
Right.
you. What makes you stay in Rochester and really experience all of what the city has to offer, the community
Well,
has
my
to offer?
parents are in Rochester. They still live here. And I am the oldest daughter. My brother and his family live in New York City. They've been there for like 20 something years or so. So, family is one reason. I do enjoy the city. I know over time, many people have complained about, oh, there's not enough to do. It's boring. But I've always said, again, it's about how far you want to look. I often say I need to clone myself because there's so many things I would like to do, but I don't have an opportunity to do it because no time. But I travel a lot. Well, I used to travel a lot more before the pandemic, but I find that just being able to travel outside of the state, outside of the country, but then I can come back here to home. It's comforting.
Sure. And life is easy, lots of offerings. I know what you mean. There's a lot to do, and often it's a conflict, even through these times where COVID days, if you will, there seems to be conflicts in activities or dates in terms of doing everything that we want to do.
Exactly.
So, question about your favorite things in Rochester. What would that be?
Let's see. Well, I love live music, although I've been suffering. I haven't received my fill of live music due to the pandemic. But some of my favorite things included the Jazz Fest or just stopping in to see a small concert at a well-known venue, an unknown venue, because I love music. Pretty much, I love the performing arts, so I can enjoy a show at Jiva, enjoy music at Eastman Theater, enjoy a concert at a neighborhood festival or street party. And of course, I love the visual arts. So being able to visit, a venue as large as Memorial Art Gallery or some of our smaller art organizations to see an exhibition is always good. But we're fortunate to live in New York State, which has so many parks. And locally, we have some beautiful parks. If you feel like getting back to nature, and I find that nature centers me, sometimes you just need to get outside and stay outside for a little bit and enjoy the scenery. So between the arts and just natural beauty and some of our area parks, those are some of my great things. And food, everyone knows I love food. I love cooking. I love eating out as well. And I think we have a nice variety of restaurants in the area.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Deborah. I think you're the perfect guest for my show because you talk about, different ways to reinvent yourself, which leads to how you make money. You talked about how to spend your money in a joyful way. And then, of course, you're working with non-for-profits, and our community is very giving. And it's nice that we could also share some of the ways for people to give back to the community, such as the MAG and Planned Parenthood and so on. So thank you so much for being my
Oh,
guest today.
you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
All the best to you. Thank you, our viewers, for joining us. My guest is Debora McDell-Hernandez, and thank you for joining us today. Until next time, I'm Nannette Nocon.
Nannette, why don't you do that one more time?
Okay, sounds good. And thank you, our guests, for joining us today. I'm Nannette Nocon. Our guest was Debora McDell-Hernandez. Until next time.